Hi, welcome to the second live stream. If there's anybody here, you can say hi. As like in the last stream, I'm having some kombucha, which is a fermented tea. So the intention here is to chat and answer questions. And I'll also address the title of the stream because I believe I called it Life is About to Get Good, or Things Are About to Get Good. What did I say? What did I call it? Life's about to get way better. And the reason I typed that in there is because I didn't know what to call it. And I was contemplating excitement and nervousness or anxiety. And all of those things are kind of the same thing in terms of how we feel. But the difference in the experience is caused by how we think about the way that we feel. And to be nervous is to be anxious. It's usually to presume the worst of the future that's coming. And that's not a very nice place to be. And on the flip side, with excitement, we think positively or highly of the thing that's coming in the future. And ultimately, we don't know what's coming because it's uncertainty up ahead. If you're nervous, if you're anxious, if you're excited, ultimately, it's uncertainty that you're about to be faced with. And whichever way we feel is going to determine whether that uncertainty is a good thing or a bad thing. So when we expect a bad thing, we're anxious, we're nervous. And then when we expect a good thing, we're excited. But just because you expect a good thing or a bad thing doesn't mean it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. So when I say life is about to get way better, it's speaking to myself and anyone else who's experiencing nervousness or anxiety to just believe it's going to get better. If you're concerned that something unfavorable is going to happen, then why don't you just take a guess that something favorable is going to happen? Something better than you can ever imagine is going to happen. And that makes this moment easier. And it also probably increases the likelihood of something good happening, because when you think good things are going to happen, you start acting in a more carefree way. You sort of let go of that resistance that's associated with, fear. Like if you're fearful of something, you're not wanting something to happen, and that's all you're focused on. Whereas if instead of being fearful, you just presume something good's going to happen, and then you'll approach things with a lighter heart, lighter being, and you'll probably have a better time around yourself, and other people have a better time around you. So it's a win-win, and all we're really doing is just switching up our mindset. Welcome to everybody that's here. Hello, Savvy Boy, calling me the punk philosopher. I've never been called punk philosopher before, so I'll take that. Independent puppy. Hello. If you're here, say hi. I invite everyone to ask questions and throw in your thoughts, and maybe we can talk about things. Hello. Hello, Italy. Christina. And Mitzi. Hi, Mitzi. Let me know, everybody, where you're from. I'm dialing in today from Dublin, the capital of Ireland. And it's a lovely, sunny summer's evening. So the last time I did this, I wasn't sure if anyone would pop in, and then we actually did have quite a few people popping in, and we had a good conversation going for a couple of hours. So maybe the same happens today. Maybe I just talk about other stuff. Welcome from India. That's awesome. I've not been to India. I will go to India someday. And Dorset. I've not been to Dorset. Or have I? I've been to Devon. Is Dorset in Devon? Or maybe it's nearby. Or maybe Devon is like an area and Dorset is within Devon. Very good. I spent about a month in Devon, in Torquay, in a hostel in 2020. I was cleaning toilets. It was a very interesting time of my life. It's one of those times that really sucked at the time, but I was very happy for it in retrospect. I think it was good for character building. It also taught me a lot about abundance and mindset. And I suppose it's very relevant to the title of this stream, because at the time I was there, I didn't have any resources. I was down to my last few euros. And I was really afraid that my life was just going to explode and that I'd end up homeless. And then I kind of imagined the worst case scenario. And I had a guitar with me at the time, and I would busk to make some money. And I realized that the worst case scenario was that I just stayed in the hostel, cleaning the toilets, whatever I was doing, like 20 hours of work a week. And I got a bed for that. And then all I really need to do is earn a few, £5 or £10 from busking to afford a modest meal in Tesco. And I just found peace with it. It wasn't an ideal scenario, but as soon as I did come to terms with that was kind of my worst case scenario, things actually turned around quite quickly, and I got an opportunity to go somewhere else. And I was actually going to get paid there doing editing work, like video editing. So that was my first encounter with, like abundant mindset or whatever. Like I let go of the resistance that I had toward, having no money. And I was afraid that I was going to live a lifestyle that I was embarrassed about. And that's like an ongoing thing. I feel like no matter how much success one attains, the mindset is the hardest thing to shift. You can be very wealthy financially, but then feel that you don't have enough. And similarly, you can have very little and feel like you have a lot, or not see that as a problem. And I suppose in that little anecdote that I'm referring to, I didn't have a lot, but I just became okay with that. I became okay with the prospect of having basically nothing. And that put me at ease. And then, funnily enough, the situation changed. But even if it didn't change, I didn't necessarily need it to change. And at the same time, I was hopeful that it would change, just because we're accepting that life isn't where we want it to be doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to that we're going to accept it to stay there forever. I believe you can strive and want to achieve different things and more things whilst also appreciating what is currently happening. David, I'm curious if you feel like people are too individualistic nowadays. Where I am from in the US, a lot of people don't prioritize community and keep to themselves, I think to their own detriment. That's a good question, and it's very difficult for me to answer on behalf of all people because I think we have different needs. And there are a lot of people that we could call individualistic that quite enjoy that way of being. And it's not for me to say that that's to their detriment or not. I know for me, I enjoy meeting new people and encountering adventure. And that's something that I value in life. But other people value a very simple life with a simple network or maybe even no network. And that's valid too. We're on our own journey. And I know when I first got into, I suppose, a journey of personal development, I was really excited to share what I had been going through with other people. And from speaking with a lot of other people that have been through a similar kind of character arc to myself, it's very common that we learn about new things and then we try to tell other people about it and say you got to do this. It's gonna solve all of your issues. But then I found when I was kind of pushing and trying to influence people, it just wasn't really landing. And it's because usually the people that we're trying to influence aren't interested in what we're selling, basically. And that's totally fine. Just like you've said there, you think it's to their detriment, but they might not think it's to their detriment. And for them, maybe being less individualistic would be to their detriment. So there's not a one size fits all approach or mentality for everybody at the same time. And something that I kind of grew into over the years was just accepting people as they were and allowing them to live how they wanted to live. I really struggled for quite a while with communicating with people, specifically around small talk. Like if I was out and about, I might walk past a stranger, and I think in Ireland anyway, and I'm sure there's equivalents in different cultures. We just have these like small talk things that we say that they don't mean anything, um, but it's a gesture. And what people would always say is they'd comment on the weather. They'd say, "Oh, it's a lovely day," just as I'm walking past them. And the day it could be raining, and they'd be like, "Oh, it's an awful day," or it could be like sunny, and they'd be like, "Oh, it's a lovely," or even it could be rainy, and someone might still say, "Oh, it's a lovely day." And that used to really bother me because I wanted to have like deeper interactions with people. But what I came to learn is that some people don't want to have what I consider a deep interaction. And that's fine. It only becomes a problem when I make it a problem. So what I would do is I'd walk past them and they'd say, "Oh, it's a lovely day," which they have good intentions. But then in my mind, I get really angry. Like, why can't people have deep conversations all the time? And that was my problem because I couldn't just embrace how other people liked to live. And so my solution to that was to just come to appreciate how unique each individual is and their own communication styles. And now, if you walk past me and you say it's a lovely day, I'll smile and I say, oh, it's beautiful. Or I'll laugh or something because it's more fun that way. And I had to get over myself in order to, you know, come to that realization. And it took ages. And looking back, I'm like, why didn't I just do that immediately? But you kind of have to suffer through your own limitations before you realize that you're imposing them upon yourself. And that's what I went through, and that's what I did. And yeah, I hope that's of some use. And I really appreciate you asking that question. And yeah, thanks so much for being here. Yeah, totally. Yeah, embracing people for how they are it's very difficult, but once you do it, it's so freeing for you and for the other people. Um, it's just better for the world, you know? We don't have to be the exact same to get along with people. Savvy boy, when I went to Turkey, people were often taking pictures with me. They were very fascinated by my beard in particular, I believe. Um, but also I just kind of look like a nerdy hippie backpacker. So people would always just be looking at me, and it's kind of funny. You just walk past people and they just stop and turn their head and they're like cocking at you. Um, it's interesting to be known purely based on your physical appearance and like your presumed ethnicity or whatever it might be. Um, Hi, Ty Foster, tuning in from Houston. You're very welcome. I'm very happy to have you here. And what's life like in Houston? I've been very curious about Texas. I spent time on the East Coast in Boston and a little bit of time traveling around the West Coast. But I feel like living in Austin, I know you're not in Austin. Yeah, I know it's hot. That's what I've been hearing. Yeah, I feel like living there could be interesting. There's a lot of creators that live there. In Ireland, there doesn't seem to be much of a creator community. Like I'm not aware of any people that make content that are in the same kind of niche, I suppose, as me. There's a couple of people, but they're like really big on YouTube and kind of they're making content but not relevant to kind of what I'm talking about. So I feel like if I was in the States, I'd be excited and curious to see what the networking and collaboration opportunities might be. Hmm. I'm thinking of going to Japan in April, and I'm sort of at a transition period in my life. I feel like something is afoot with my geographical location because I've been here for about 3 years, and I think I've done a good job at committing to being here and cultivating something. And I was away a couple of weeks ago, and I met a bunch of new people, and it reminded me of the excitement of being in new places with new people. And I suppose I kind of miss it. Like I have a good social circle here and a good community, and I appreciate all of that. But I've just been wondering, maybe there's somewhere else calling me. And if I went to Japan, that's very far away. So if I'm over that way, I figure I may as well explore more of that part of the world. But then I found out that Japan's not even really near other places either. It's like 8 hour. I wanted to go to Indonesia, but that's like an 8 hour flight from Japan. So it's 20 hours to Japan and then 8 hours from Japan. It's just a lot of flying, and I guess I'm just used to the simplicity of Europe because everywhere is like an hour to 2 hours away, and it's like very cheap flights. But if anybody has suggestions of where I could go, I would love to hear them and maybe chat about them. Welcome, JMR Davies, coming from North Wales. You're just across the pond. On a clear day, I can see North Wales. What are you up to over there? Yeah, I'm up in Dublin right now. So I don't live in Dublin. I live down in the next kind of county, and it's more suburban there. Whereas here, it's like very urban. And it's just a crazy environment. It's so stimulating, and there's so many people, but fewer interactions almost. And yeah, I find that suffocating. So I just feel like Scotland is somewhere I'd love to go visit, but I don't think I'd be interested in living there. I mean, if I was to live there, I may as well live here. But maybe that's me having a limiting belief. Um, an opportunity to come to India. Well, thank you kindly for that. Yeah, I don't know when India is on the horizon. I feel like maybe it would be quite shocking for me, and I wonder how easy would it be for me to continue the work that I'm doing with content creation and the stuff I do with what I'm doing. And yeah, I'm just not really well researched on it. So I've been to Slovenia. I I funnily enough have quite a few connections in Slovenia, and yeah, I have a really positive association with the place. And yeah, the wild nature over there is magnificent. I've never been to Poland, and I don't have any interest in going to Poland. But that being said, like, I'm completely ignorant about Poland, so I'm sure there's a lot of wonderful things there that I could enjoy as well. Hello, Leonard. Leonard, you're very welcome. Where are you tuning in from? What's everybody excited about in life right now? What are you excited about, or what are you nervous about? Tuning in from Romania. Have a great day, Mitzi. Thanks so much for your interaction. And this will be up as a replay, I guess, so you can watch the replay if you want to hear what went on when you left. Welcome from Romania. I've got some great beaches here as well. I was at the beach this morning. I go to the beach most mornings. I go for my cold dip. Oh, yeah, I really feel you, Ty. Excited and nervous about romance. Romance is funny. When you don't have it, you want it. But then when you do have it, it's like, oh no, this could go wrong. Or what if this ends? Or is this the right decision? What's your experience been with it? It's such a fascinating thing. Um, Romance, but also just getting things that you think you want in life. It seems like this thing is going to solve all of our challenges, and then it comes, and then we just find new challenges. And having overcome quite a few challenges in my own life and realized that they didn't necessarily eradicate challenges, but more so present new ones, it shifted my energy from trying to get things to just being better at navigating challenges and being better at embracing, this moment and how I feel. Because I can always say, oh, if only I had this, I would be better. I would feel better. But ultimately, I don't I don't believe that anything can really take away the pain and the challenge of being a human. Now, I will just put a disclaimer there and say there are certain things that I haven't achieved, so I can't actually tell you if those particular things would solve all of my problems, but there's certainly things I've achieved now that I thought would solve my problems and they haven't. So that causes me to think that I'm the problem and not necessarily the things going on around me. And there's a quote that I really love. It's a mantra or a quote, whatever you want to call it. It's by a guy called Matt Kahn, and he says, if you're in a state of, like feeling unhappy, just say, if I had everything I wanted right now, I would still feel the same. And the moment I say that, I just feel this release, because usually when I'm sad, it's because I'm thinking like, oh, this person left, or like, oh, that didn't work, or this expectation wasn't met. And I say that if those things weren't true, then I wouldn't be sad. But when you say that mantra, if I had everything I wanted right now, I would still feel the same. We're basically saying, I feel this way because I just do. It's not because of anything that's happening. Of course, that might be the trigger, but ultimately, we feel what we feel when we feel it. And some things just need to be felt. Happiness needs to be felt, sadness needs to be felt, anger. All of these things need to be just felt, and let them run through you. And getting stuff is never going to replace those feelings. I feel like they're operating on two different planes of existence almost. And sometimes there's correlation between the two, but they're not necessarily uh, causal, I think. Causation. People say correlation and causation. I don't really know what those words mean. But correlation, it's like usually if financial situations are tough, that's probably going to correlate with being sad or anxious. But that doesn't mean that you can be rich and happy all the time, because you can be rich and you can still be sad. So it's not like money equals happy and no money equals sad. You can be sad with money and you can be sad without money. Or you can be happy with romance, you can be sad without romance. You can be happy because you're living in your dream city, or you can be sad even though you're living in your dream city, because the feelings are just happening. We're human, and that's always going to come up, and then it's going to subside. I'm going to tune into the chat again. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat. If you've got anything to say, just pop it in the chat. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I'll like make talking points out of them. So let's get back to Ty and his romance. Or pardon me, I don't know if you're a guy. Sorry, Ty, if you're not a guy. It's been good so far, but going with the flow. Yeah, going with the flow and letting go of those expectations, right? That's the hardest thing about life for me. Because usually I do things with like some sort of expectation in mind. And it's very rare that, like, it's the things that we do without thinking that we do without an expectation. And those are the things that usually cause really cool things to happen. But when you've got, like, society has created this whole, like, I suppose, model or culture around like romance. So then when romance enters, we're trying to fit our experience of that into this societal construct of it. So like, let's say it's a long-term relationship is what like society kind of promotes long-term relationships and marriage and stuff like that. So then the moment a potential lover comes across our path, we start to think, oh, could this be the person that I'm going to have a long-term relationship with? Is this going to be my future spouse? And that's what causes our mind to then have all these problems. And then we start like nitpicking stuff and be like, oh, did I say this right? Like that podcast said that you should never shave your eyebrows that way, but I did by mistake. And is that why she's not going to want to have my children? So our expectations are really the main thing kind of screwing us up, because if you just don't have expectations, then you just go through life and you don't judge things as good or bad because you don't have a mold for the thing to go into. Like, who's to say that a short-term relationship is a failed relationship and that a long-term relationship is a successful one? Because you can be in a short-term relationship that's really nurturing and beautiful, and then you can be in a long-term one that's not. And society says one is better than the other. But really, it's about what do you say? What do you feel about it? Elena, what choices are you contemplating? Entrance exam. I guess with exams, put in the work to learn and do well. It's probably the easiest thing. We all have different goals and we do things that we're nervous about them. But it's interesting for me to really get to enjoy such linear processes anymore. Whereas I think in an exam, it's a lot more straightforward. Like I always have easier if I was an accountant, because I would just need to study and tests and whatever I need to pay to get that accreditation. Then it might not be a fit path for me personally. So in some ways it would be easy because it's more straightforward, but in other ways I start to feel unfulfilled. void. I feel like I need to balance and creativity in order to make this part. And I guess it goes back to early on, we were talking about how we have different needs, and my needs are going to be different to the person and the next person. So what we do in our lives, and if someone's doing something that for them, that's my problem. I have a couple of videos on the channel about shopping, and I would say about 300 people have left the comment, wherever you go, there you are, without realizing that like 299 other people have left it before them on the same video. But it's so true. And interestingly, I heard a quote recently. It was like, if you're having problems in Los Angeles, go to New York. And so the idea is that the problems are in Los Angeles and they won't be in New York. And I think there is truth to that as well, because to a degree, our external circumstances can influence how we feel. Like you could have a problem with the weather in Los Angeles if it's too hot, and then you go to New York in the winter or whatever, then it'll be cooler. So that would solve that problem. But yeah, I think our issues are rarely as simple as, oh, the weather's bad and that's why I'm sad. Although I do know that, that's a thing. People get sad with the weather. And the weather is kind of tough here in the winter time. It's dark mainly, and that can have a negative impact. In which case, yeah, sure, go somewhere sunny and get your vitamin D. There's a biological reality to it. But yeah, it's not as straightforward as like, I don't think we should stop trying to make our lives better with like external things altogether and just accept that we should be happy. Because if that's the case, you just go live in a cave and go be happy in a cave. That's just not like gonna happen or work for most people. So experiment with your geographical location and also be aware that the one constant in your life is you, and honor that and reflect upon that and cultivate a deeper and kinder relationship to yourself. And don't think that that's a destination, because it's not. It's just something you do every day. You wake up, you look in the mirror and you say, hi, nice to be with you today. Thank you for being ginger. Thank you for smiling. Those are the things I say to myself. I'm not actually ginger. I've got a ginger beard though. I don't know why I said I was ginger. Some people say I'm a ginger. Yeah, don't expect things from people. I think that's good. I've run into issues with that lately because I've expected things from people, but I only expected them because they told me to expect them. So when you're expecting things that you've agreed upon and then those things don't happen, that's like quite frustrating. And I think it's reasonable to expect that things you agreed would happen would happen. But to your point, even if someone does tell you to expect something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a guarantee. So yeah, it's a fine balance between like being a nihilist or a pessimist versus, like just a practical human that can like trust people. I don't think I don't think it's useful to be like, I can't trust anybody. Everyone's just letting me down all the time. Because some people, even if they do let you down, for the most part, like they're good. They're good to have around. I don't know. It's a tricky one. Welcome, Teddy. You're nervous about your friend's wedding this Saturday. I've been unemployed for months and don't socialize with friends. I hear you. I found weddings or gatherings have been my relationship to them has changed over the years. And I'd say a few years ago, I felt not so great in myself. And I didn't like to go to these events because people would ask me what I was doing with myself. And I wasn't really happy with where I was at. And I felt embarrassed. And that sucked. But I've noticed in the last year or two that that's changed for me because I feel happier in myself and more content. And I have a higher sense of self worth than I did previously. And it's just easier to converse because I'm not ashamed to the same extent. And I know that's a tough thing to navigate. I suppose a practical thing that is definitely helpful in social situations is focusing on the person you're speaking to. Ask them about them rather than speaking so much about yourself. And I'm not. I'm kind of being presumptuous here. I don't know that. I don't know that that's your exact issue. That was my issue, but it sounds like you could also just be nervous to be in a social setting. But I suppose asking questions is a good way to be in a social setting, regardless. You're showing interest in people, and I know that that can be challenging and nerve wracking, and that's okay. But it doesn't mean you can't do it. Welcome, wild Gaia spirit. What's happening with you today? Where are you tuning in from? Sorry, my sound uh, sounds like it sounds like my sound cut off. I hope it's okay now. That must have just been something to do with the internet here. So thanks for your patience. Yeah, it's so funny being in a beautiful place and feeling not beautiful. But I also think it's good to experience that from time to time because then you realize that there's a lot more to life than things. But sometimes you you don't realize, like, you go through life without realizing that things don't solve your challenges. So I think it's important to be miserable from time to time to get that contrast. Don't people make you angry? Like when you're giving unuseful info and they're bullshitting. So I think you meant to say like when they're giving unuseful info. But in any case, I get angry all the time, and that's fine. Like that's my problem. And if I'm saying that I'm angry because of someone, then that's me not owning my own anger. So like if someone's talking about something in a conversation and I don't find it useful, that's just my perception. It doesn't mean that they're wrong for expressing what they're expressing. I mentioned this earlier on at the start of the live stream, how I used to really struggle with small talk. I just found it really frustrating and I wanted people to have, more profound thoughts to share. But then I realized that it's my problem that I can't deal with small talk. So I just got better at dealing with it and just kind of embraced it for what it is. So, if someone's talking to you about things that you're not that interested in, it's fine. It happens. They're not a bad person, and you're not a better person for not being like you're not a bad person or a better person for enjoying it or not. And if it's just like a one-off interaction, don't worry about it. Like you're probably not going to see them again. And then if it's happening all the time, then you need to reevaluate who you're surrounding yourself with on a regular basis. Because if that's always happening, then maybe your lifestyle, where you're living, where you're going, isn't aligned with your values and the types of conversations that you want. So you won't really find me in a nightclub ever or a pub, really, because that's just not really the type of space I like to frequent. And the types of conversations that I've had there in the past aren't exactly conversations I'm interested in having. So I just don't go there. So usually I'll spend time in like a coffee shop or down on the beach or out walking, or I go rock climbing lately because I really enjoy that, or running or something like that. So it's just a matter of identifying what you want, what you enjoy, and then figuring out the places that best support that. Because it's easy to just sit there and stay where you are and complain about people not talking about the things you like to talk about or not being interested in the same things. It's easy to sit there and complain about that, but the hard thing is to go out on your own and go into uncertainty and to new social circles and encounter new people. I'm sorry about the audio. I just I don't know what to say about it because as far as I'm aware, I've got really good internet speed. There, it felt like plus you feel like uh no. I've never really felt like I belong anywhere in particular. I love to arrive somewhere and then be like, this is it, this is home. Maybe it'll happen. But I don't currently believe that it's that simple. I think home is something that needs to be cultivated. Home is regardless. It's just wherever you go, that's where you are. Like if you're at home in yourself, you can be at home anywhere. And I've lived in Canada for 4 months, and we had like maybe 20 residents there, and it was cool. But I had loads of problems there, and I feel like that's a place that a lot of people dream of. They dream of going to the forest and living off the land and drinking kombucha and eating a vegan diet and doing yoga every day. And I've done maybe that just wasn't for me. Maybe there is a specific life where I feel at home, and I just haven't found it yet. And I'm really open to that. I'm feeling though that it's more so important to be at home in myself. If I can do that, then it doesn't matter where I am or because I'm with me. Hmm. Yeah, I think that's beautiful. JMR. I'm sorry, I don't know your full name. Yeah, conversations are so undervalued. Like, it's crazy how small interactions, what I would perceive as small, can have a profound impact on how I feel or how the other person feels. And you never know what you're going through, and you never know why you're in that space at that time with that person. And yeah, I like to believe that there's some magic going on in the universe that's going to put you there at the same time. I I was having a hard time a few months ago, and I went to go for a walk on this beach that I don't usually go to. And the reason I say that I don't usually go there is because of what happens at the end of the story. So I I was making my way there, and I pulled into the petrol station to fill up my car, and then I went to a supermarket to get some chocolate. And so that, all took some time. And then I went my way to the beach, parked the car. I was just sitting on my phone before I went out for my walk. While I was sitting there, a guy came over and knocked on my window. And I did something and needed getting to the village. And I just and he was having a challenging day from what he and he seemed to get a lot of interaction as small as it was. I didn't even go for a walk. I literally just went home after that. So it was just kind of one of those weird things. It was like, I never go to this place. I decided to go there, and I didn't even do what I was wanting to do there because this thing happened, and it seemed to be very beneficial. So it was kind of just one of those moments where I was like, that was that like the magic of the universe that put me there at that time? Because it was a completely like unconventional route for me to take. And then something, in my opinion, something profound happened because of that random thing that I never usually do. Hmm. Any other questions or talking points from anybody? Is there anybody creeping in the background that hasn't said hi? I invite you to say hi. I thank you for being here. I'm all out of kombucha. Now I'm drinking water. Hey Jim, how are you doing today? Happy to have you here. Did anybody watch the latest video? It's reached quite a few people, which was nice because it was a kind of random, spontaneous video, and it took me like 20 minutes to make it. And that's always how life goes. The things you don't really put much effort into just turn out having more impact. It's fascinating. It's frustrating because on the other side, when you do work really hard at something, it goes the complete opposite way. Yes, Jim, that's it. I'm glad you're doing okay, and I'm glad you're happy to be here. Where do you come from, Jim? That's awesome. I have a dream wherever I live, like wherever like my forever home ends up being, I'm going to dig a trench in the back and I'm gonna have a big like telephone post, and then I'm gonna have a plank, like a plank of wood, so that I can squat on the plank of wood and hold on to the telephone post so I don't fall backwards into the trench, and that'll be the toilet because it's just way more optimal for going to the bathroom. Because like in your house, like you're sitting on the toilet, I end up on my phone, and when you're just going out in a hole in the ground, you don't there's no fecking around, like you just get it done. And yeah, you can just save up so much more time, and it's physically better for you as well. Like modern toilet seats are, yeah, they're just not it. And then like, yeah, it'd be cool to have some sort of like outdoor plunging system as well, like a maybe not a cold tub because that's a bit too high tech, but maybe like a cold pond or something that's like naturally filtered. Jump in there after. That'd be a fresh start to the day. Essentially an expensive bucket. So I'm curious, what does what's life like in rural New Hampshire? When I was living in the community that I lived in Canada, we did have compost toilets, but they still had seats, so it was still an issue. I just think we need to remove the toilet shape and just have a hole. Okay, yeah, driving for water. That you must be quite far out then. Hmm. Yeah, I don't really enjoy not having a tap. I'm very I'm very sophisticated in that sense, or maybe not sophisticated, depending on how you look at it. Hmm. Yeah, I love rural in many senses, and I also like proximity to a bit more amenities, I guess, or maybe not even amenities, but cafes and shops that have a variety of things that aren't too far away. I very much like live day to day when it comes to food and stuff. So the idea of having to be like incredibly mindful of what I buy in the supermarket because it's like an hour drive from where I live is a bit daunting. But I'm sure it's something I could adjust to. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, the economy is a funny one. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about the housing situation lately because where I live, it's not exactly it's not easy, but it's possible. And I was once told about finding a hack in the matrix when it comes to certain things. Because it's very easy to look at the news and look at statistics and look at housing boards and websites and things like this that everybody looks at and see the world as like impossible to live in. And if you look at it that way, then it's really daunting. But really, all you need is one place that works for you. And if you think about like the grand scheme of the world or even the area that you want to live, it's quite plausible that there is one place that does suit you, and it's just a matter of aligning to it. And yeah, I found word of mouth to be a great way of finding hacks in the matrix because everyone's going on a housing website and the people that put up their properties there or whatever for rent, that's just what I'm talking about right now. They're going to get quite a lot of applications probably from people. Whereas if you say it to, someone down in the village, and then they think, "Oh, I actually know someone who's been thinking of something, but they haven't done anything about it yet." That might be the thing that prompts your new living scenario. And I found that to be helpful in all aspects of my life, really, in living situations, but also business things and social things. It just takes one little action, one little interaction with a person that can change your whole life for the better. So when life is feeling really overwhelming, I like to remind myself of that. Mhm. Do you make videos, Jim? Well, no plumbing whatsoever. So compost toilet and then you drink from the well. How do you wash? I lived in a forest, but the forest was beside a plumbed plumbed house, I suppose. So we always just used showers. Yeah, okay, interesting. I guess you could have like one of those bags that you put in a tree, and that way you can shower. But whenever I've been like living on the road without washers, I would just wash stuff in the river, but you're not really washing. I mean, you kind of are washing it, but it's more so just getting wet. You probably find it still kind of smells a bit afterwards. So it's more like the perception of washing things rather than actually washing it. Hmm. Hello, hello, everybody. Yeah, a good earth smell. So we've been going here for an hour. I'll go as long as there's stuff to talk about, but I feel like I've talked about what I wanted to talk about. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, then stick them in. And if not, that's all good too. We can all go and enjoy our evenings or mornings or days or whatever we're doing. It's evening for me over here in Ireland. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there. If you are watching this on a replay, then maybe leave comments and I can address them in the next live stream, which will be sometime soon. I did one about a month ago, so maybe I'll do one in a few more weeks or another month. And yeah, it's just cool to interact and explore this format. I'm very grateful that there's people here that care about some of the things that I have to share, and thanks for enjoying the videos. And if you ever want to connect with me, then with a little bit of digging, you can find my email address on my Instagram. And you can say hi and ask questions or whatever. And maybe we can interact from there. So, have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.